You know, the role of an historical society is to discover and preserve and perhaps most importantly, share the stories that shape a community. And tonight, we are privileged to have hear from both men who've done something that every historian, every person who's chased their family lineage, and every member of this historical society can appreciate. And that is they've given voice to a story that has always been there, but has been hidden. A story of a family of perseverance, integrity, and of belonging to our community here in St. Mary's County. Donald and David co-authored the Barber family. It is a detailed, and I think pleasantly told, account of one family's journey across 4 generations. Its building blocks are records, oral histories, and especially, most of all, personal memories. It's a story that enriches, and I think indeed you can say meets our sense of who we are as a community here in St. Mary's County. What I find especially significant is that in their book they reveal the best of what history and what the historical society do. And that thing that we do is to connect people across time and across boundaries. Their book and the people in it remind us that the history of St. Mary's County isn't a single thread. It's not a single voice. Rather, it's a chorus, a tapestry. Each family in this county, regardless of how long they've been here or their ancestors have been here, which ship they may have arrived on, and regardless of their history in the past, the circumstances that brought them, every family contributes to the same fabric, to one community. As our new video series says on each of its openings, stories from St. Mary's City, your story plus my story equals our story. Together, it is our stories that define this unique and, I think, wonderful place in which we live. Donald traced his family roots and documented the resilience and character of their lives. As co-author, David Brown brought the expertise of a scholar, if you will, and a personal commitment to telling the stories that exist within Sodderly Plantation. And in partnership, they produced a work that honors memory and builds understanding. One final note. This evening is intended as a dialogue between David and Donald, but not just between them. We want your participation in the dialogue as well. Don't hesitate to ask questions or make comments at any time. We'll have a microphone that will be available to you. And please, as a courtesy to the others who may be in the corners of the room or less well hearing me, wait for a microphone to come to you. Now, please, join me in welcoming the stewards of our shared community, Mr. Donald Barber and David Brown. Good to have you.
Introduction on behalf of Donald and I. When Donald and I were finished, more or less, pulling this story of his family together,
Let me turn it on.
I should have asked, can you hear me?
All right. Try. Yep. I hope.
Okay, we'll try again. Can you hear me? Okay. We were asked ourselves, well, what's the story all about? And our collective answer was, it's the story of a family striving for a better life. striving for a better life in a sense of having more self-reliant control of those lives, of having more prosperity, better things for your family. And it was a story of wanting to have lives which were more fulfilling, and quite importantly, lives that would have dignity that was recognized by the community as a whole. So we're going to start this off by my asking Donald a few questions about how did his family do it? How did they navigate this over 4 generations? And I'll start this by asking Donald, did you have anything you want to say before we get started?
No, just,
Okay.
yep, let's go.
So your great-grandfather, John, he was enslaved, he gained his freedom, and what was his work? How did he begin building some prosperity for a family?
Well, the short answer is, I don't know, because no one was really looking for anyone to like be one what's the other when you signed there, so you just had to be on your own and be yourself. That's what I look for.
Now, was he a farmer?
Yes. Yes. My family was, like I said, part of farmers, and they weren't looking for anyone to be in a particular position. They just wanted to be on your own and do the best you can. That's what we did.
Okay, one thing that was very important from the beginning was education.
Yes.
So how much education did each of the generations have? Grandfather, great-grandfather, so forth.
They had actually initially very little education because they weren't educated people. They just lived their lives and made out the best they could. And education wasn't a priority. They I don't even know if they even had a concept of education. They just lived and learned and made out the best you could. Sodley was a place where there was a great deal of history taking place, but it wasn't like delineated. It wasn't like regimented, recorded. It just happened. People just made out the best they could. Everybody strove in our family for an education. That's, just the concept of education. We got to have an education. And, they did the best they could. It was with varying results. But they kept striving.
Well, if you let me, I'll supplement this a little bit.
Go right ahead, please.
His great-grandfather was enslaved.
Yes.
So of course, he had no education at all. His grandfather, Walter, from what we know only from census records, not from family history, probably went to school for about 5
I think
years.
that may be about 5 years, yeah.
Now, things began to get better with your parents' generation.
Yes.
You want to pick that story up?
Let's see. The parent generation, our grandparents were relatively uneducated people, and their main, I think, objective was just staying out of trouble. You just do what you needed to do and behave yourself, and there was a strong motivation to stay out of trouble, because one of the severe downsides was once you got into trouble, there was no mechanism to get out of trouble. So trouble was here to stay. So, there were families that were involved in Sodley that were historic people. They had a family history, and a great deal of information was known about them. But in terms of the individuals who were employed as solidly, they just worked. They worked hard and long, and that was their lot in life. They have a very hard work.
Let me supplement a little bit about it, particularly about his mother. Father went to the segregated public school system, the black schools, and went through about 6 years
Yes.
of education before, at the death of his mother, he decided to leave the country, not get any further education. His mother went through the public schools through 7th grade, and then for the fact that I was from the Somerville family, they were relatively well off. They put his mother through 2 years of the Cardinal Hills School.
Yes.
So she had a total of 9 years of education. And she came away from that with an understanding that education was the key
Yes.
to all of her children succeeding in life. So how did she push that?
See, my mother pushed education because she was, first of all, my mother was relentless. She was a very driven person, and she was an extreme no-nonsense person. She didn't like foolishness, and she called it. She was very strict. She was a very loving person, but she did not like nonsense. So she made that very clear. We worked hard. Everybody worked. Like I said, I started working at the age of 7. So I would work at solidly cutting grass and raking leaves, and it was the most boring work in the world. But we got paid because the thing that I really liked about working at solidly was you got paid because it was like payday was like, almost like a miniature Christmas. Because one of the things that I really admired about my parents is they never took anything that we owned. Everything that we earned, we got to keep. That was a big difference. Because I knew other friends of mine that, you know, their parents would take a percentage, mainly all of the money they made. It just went to the family. But our parents said that if you work, you should keep what you earn and it should be yours. And I was behind that 100%. It was a good lesson.
Now let me tell you a little bit more about it. What Donald's mother accomplished in terms of education.
Yes.
She only had 9 years, but she was determined that all of her children were going to go right through 12 years of education.
Yes.
And the first group in the family did that in the black segregated schools. And Donald was of the latter part of his family, and the younger children experienced the transition to integrated schools, and Donald ended up graduating from high school.
Yes.
But that wasn't enough in a way, because she had instilled in her kids a drive for more education. So even though she had only had that limited education, 3 of her children got college degrees, and one of them, Donald's older sister, ended up with a master's in education and serving as a school teacher up in Prince George's County for her whole life. And his mother was immensely proud of what her children had done. Donald's rather modest, so he doesn't bring out all of the good things.
Well, one of the things I did find out about my brother, my mother, late in life, is that she had an undiagnosed learning disability, and but she coped with that the same way she coped with everything else. She just powered through it, because learning disability is a pretty severe impairment. But she was just relentless, So she would just keep trying to learn. She would learn and learn and learn, and read and read. And it was painful for her, but she would do it, and she never gave up. Like I said, they said she had an undiagnosed learning disability. I just said, oh, because what she called it, her term for it would be shamefaced. You know, I mean, just painfully shy. So she said when the teacher would have them recite things out loud, she would just pretend she couldn't do it, and then, you know, get disciplined and just take it. So, it was a very difficult decision to make, a difficult thing to deal with, but she dealt with it, found a way. I always just, you know, because she always said that, you know, I'm not very smart. I don't know very much, and I just thought she knew everything. Because she can do anything. Yeah. And like I said, she never gave up. So I know when she suffered a very severe stroke late in life, she never stopped trying to move because they kept trying to get her to move and exercise. And she would just be relentless. She'd be out there, go up and down that hall. I would see her every day when she was out there. I went to see her every day. I missed, I think, one day after she had that stroke, and that's the day she died. Very sad.
Donald, how did that perseverance and courage, how did that affect you and your brothers and sisters? I mean, did you see that at the time?
Yes.
And do you see that reflected in your adult life or as you grew up?
I saw it reflected when I grew up, and I saw it reflected every day because it was just it was like a drumbeat. You know, he was saying, you got to do this, you got to do that, and like, you know, I don't feel like today. You don't feel like you do this, you don't want to hear that. And there was no such word as can't. So I can't do that. So you mean you didn't try hard enough. That's what she would say.
Thank you for that question, Peter.
You had mentioned that you went to work at Solderly at the age of 7.
Yes.
Was your family still living at Solderly, or did you just end up going back and they were going to employ you?
No, they were still living. They were still working at Solderly then.
And what year was that?
That would have been in the mid-60s.
I'll be darned. I didn't know that. Now, where did you graduate?
I graduated from Chapicon in the mid-70s.
What year
70s.
did you? Now, you said that your mother was a Somerville?
Yes.
Somerville's from Loveville area? No?
They were from Hollywood, actually.
Were they?
Their relatives were in Loveville.
The reason I was asking is I know the Somerville family donated the land for Banneker,
Yes.
for Banneker High School back in the day. So I was just trying, I went to school with a lot of the Somervilles in that area, and you know, I came up in the 60s, and they would come over to our house, and we would go over to their house, and our family we didn't know anything about segregation, and
Right.
you know, we just
Lived your life.
we would live our life.
Now, one of the things that's interesting about the Somervilles is that there's Somervilles on both sides of the family. They're all Somervilles, but they're not related. Hey, you gotta be related. So they don't claim. But there's quite a few of them, that's for sure.
Hello, Donald, I know you from a little boy. We're the Curtis family that lived on Mr. Road and still do. We all rode Mr. Marshall's little yellow bus
Yes.
all around the circle and everything. So when I heard about your book, I'm like, well, gee, that sounds interesting. It's probably something that I've heard of that you lived through, that we both lived through. So it's exciting to see you here and Mr. Brown. Brown, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And telling your story, because we all have stories here. And to hear them just gives you a lift to realize that you are not alone with the experiences that you've had. So it's good to see you here.
And it's also interesting how close all the families were back in those days.
Yes.
Because I remember my sister.
Phyllis?
Yes.
Yes.
Doing some of the Curtis girls' hair.
And my sister Margaret used to do Phyllis's hair.
Yeah.
So is Phyllis the teacher that's in Prince George's?
Yes,
Okay,
we've all family experience.
absolutely, absolutely.
It's getting very personal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, hold on.
You're good.
So I'm Mike Thompson. The story I tell, I grew up on the side of the road. So I knew the Somervilles and the Scribers and the Chases and Stevens. And we were all pretty much tobacco farmers. We all worked together. But the story that I got was that it was maybe 1950. I was 5 years old. Boots Chase was 6 years old. He was a year older than me. They lived on a farm. And back then, the farmers used to work together cutting tobacco. So there were several families of men working tobacco. I remember putting tobacco up in the loft and that kind of thing. And Boots and I were playing. And apparently we were having too good a time. And this is how segregated we were. I was told by my father, apparently some of his friends who were working with us didn't like what was going on between Boots and me. We were having too much fun together. And I was told at the end of the day that I couldn't play with him anymore. And that was pretty hard because we were pretty good friends. And I'll tell you, I go through St. John's, we were segregated. I go to Riken, I had Conrad Rose within my class. Went to college. There was one black guy who played soccer from Nigeria. He was in my class. Then I went in the Army. Then I got integrated.
I remember they used to have 2 church festivals. They would have one for the black people. Yes, they did. Yes.
Yeah, I'll say one other thing. Father Harris, when he came here, he said, we are no longer having 2 cemeteries. If you go to most of these older churches, they'll have the black area. You go around, you'll see it. So that's how it's segregated. We all worked together. We were all good family friends and all that stuff. But at some point, we were segregated.
A firm dividing line.
Yeah.
So I live on St. George Island. There's a Catholic church there that has a white cemetery on one side, and on the other side is a black UAME cemetery. And I remember going to Cardinal Gibbons, when I was in high school, and working with the parish priest down there, and there was like, I even remember I was actually in I guess I was early on in my real estate career. I was down in the 7th District, and there was a bar down there right before you get to Colton's Point. And I was shocked to see there was 2 separate entrances. There was a...
It's called Club Paradise.
I don't remember what it was called. Yeah, and it was right before you get to Colton's Point. It was almost all the way down, and it was like 2 entrances, but the bar went all the way through, but there was a wall there that separated. So like if you went in on the white side, you wouldn't see anybody sitting over on the black side. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. So, but I just wanted to ask, because you mentioned that your mom was a Somerville.
Yes.
And so, historically, I mean, Somerville was a white name going far enough back. So, obviously, the Navy base, the forget what it's called, Quarters A or whatever, the old mansion down there was owned by the Somervilles. And so, obviously, she must have been one of the enslaved people that came from that area. Do you know anything about that?
My My grandmother's family, they were actually half white, so
Okay.
there was quite a bit of interracial going on at the time, but they were definitely raised black. Because you didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
It was strictly enforced, and I mean, it can be fatal if you try to step across the lines. So,
Sure.
they were very careful because people, people are not looking for trouble. They just want to live their lives, and, make it the best they can. So, but like I said, my mother was she just felt that the great equalizer was education. So the more you learn, the more you can have control of your own life. And that's what she taught us. It's just the life.
So don't look back.
Yeah. Look for the future.
You went to St. Mary's College of Maryland, right?
Yes, I did.
St. Mary. And scholarship? National Merit?
Scholarship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
Because, well, I talk about relentless. That's one of the games. Because my mother just like, it was like there's a game plan. You go to school, you go to get A's, you go to get a scholarship, and then you got to go to college. And it wasn't like, well, I don't want to do that, or I might want to do something else. Shut up. I got a game plan.
Hello, Don.
College, they happen.
Just two things. Number one, expand on your mother's perseverance, her very strong personality as she was working at Solderly, and I might get into a little bit about the gift shop. And the other is, when you're talking about education, how Mabel Ingles got involved in helping out, I believe it was your sister,
Yeah.
to make sure she got the education she should have to be the person she is today. And I've had the personal experience of interviewing her.
Yeah, Mabel Ingles helped my sister Phyllis to, well, see, my sister Phyllis was always very, she's just a very bookish person. So she won a, I can't even remember what the name of it was, but it was a scholarship, senatorial scholarship.
Yeah.
That's what she got. That she was able to attend college on. And, she went to Morgan State University. Morgan alumni.
David, in collaborating, this is a question for you, David, in collaborating on the book, what surprised you? What didn't you expect in Donald's tale, or Donald's stories of his family, not just as his family and the courage of his mom and the family, but about what it says about the society as a whole? What did you learn? What did you discover? If anything.
Well, first of all, Don and I are very different people. He spent his whole life pretty much here, and I am an outsider. I've been in the county now for a quarter of a century, but I don't know if that counts very much. So we were very different people. He knew about what it was like growing up because he lived it. His family lived it. I knew nothing about it. So one of the great pleasures of it was Donald encouraging me to go and interview all of his siblings about their experience to make sure there wasn't just Donald's story, it was their story as well. And I found a wonderfully warm, welcoming family to a white guy who was trying to dig into their experiences as a black family, and sometimes in a rather intrusive way. So I learned what a wonderful family Donald had.
And they were one
Go
of the
ahead.
person they was.
After your great-grandfather was freed from slavery, were they allowed to stay at Southly and work, or you could buy property outside in Hollywood?
Listen now, my great-grandfather lived in the Hillbill district, they called it, but you see a sign that says Hillbill now, but I think it was much more extensive back in those days.
Where's that, in Hollywood?
Yes. Has no.
As I understand it, in those days, Hillville was a big area south of Mechanicsville, all the way down
Yes.
to Hollywood. And his grandfather was not involved with sodomy at all. He was beginning, he was a farm laborer working on somebody else's farm. And then by 1900, he moved to Prince George's County. And there, he was a, quote, farmer living on a rented farm, which I think means he was a sharecropper.
Yes, there's a subtle but important difference.
Donald, when we were sitting, the three of us were together at David's house and doing this stories of St. Mary's County video of the two of you, you made a comment that has stuck with me, and that is when you were living on Sodley Plantation, when you were living there, that was one world. When you left the plantation and went into Town or Lexington Park, wherever it was that you went, that was a different world. And you were, I may be mistaken a little bit, but I think you were surprised by a couple of things that you encountered in school and beyond that, and that it was one what's the word I'm looking for? It was one setting within Sodley, but a surprisingly different setting once you stepped outside of Sodley.
A lot of that was because of the personal power of Mabel Ingalls, because she called the shots. I mean, it's just the way it was. And when we were at Sodley, you didn't really experience racism because nobody had anything. So it wasn't like this person got more, this person got less. There were the haves and the have-nots. You fell in one category or the other. And some of the people that were had means and were wealthy from Sodley were wonderful people. They were wonderful people. They didn't really, they never got involved in the concept of racism because they were so wealthy, you know, they were just living a good life. So, they would have these wonderful parties, and my mother would serve, and she would have me carry a tray around with drinks and just serve people. So it was a different lifestyle because, see, then that was Sodley. Then you walked off from Sodley onto Hollywood, and people call you the N-word. It was a different world completely. Now I'm not saying there weren't nice people from Hollywood, but there was people from Hollywood that were not nice, and I mean definitely were not nice. They made sure you knew it.
So I want to relate that back to what you were saying a moment ago.
Yeah.
Sorry, David. I want to relate that because it's intriguing to me. I want to relate that back to what you were saying a moment ago about your mom and her courage and her perseverance. Did that prepare you? Did that arm you? Did that build a armor or resilience to you when you met that unexpected, I guess, reaction to who you were?
Yes, it did. Because I feel like my mother and father armor plated because they made sure I had everything I needed. And you have a degree of self-assurance when you feel prepared for things that you can handle anything. And that's the way I felt. It's like, bring it on, you know, ready. And I was. And my mother, even though she was about 5'4", she was probably one of the fiercest human beings you ever meet, because she had an anger in her that was like a volcano. You didn't want to make her angry, because once you did, there was no off switch. Because I mean, people laugh. I tell them, my mother hit me with a baseball bat once. I'll never forget it, because I've been around the other kids and learned how to be stupid. And I told her that that I didn't want her telling me what to do anymore. That she could make suggestions, and if I thought it was something I wanted to do, I would do it. And then I had never seen stars before in my life. But like in the cartoons where they see stars, that's real. Because she said, "Hey, Donald," and I turned around and she hit me with that bat. And I don't think I woke up for an hour.
One of the pleasures of working with Donald is just an endless fountain of stories.
That's true.
Well, let me go back and ask another question.
Go right ahead.
So, your family, when they're trying to make their way in the world, did they basically say, we got to accept the segregated system and figure out a way to work within it to get ahead? Or were they amongst the people who felt, you've got to challenge it, you've got to push it to get it to change? Where did your family come down? Your parents, first together?
My parents, I really don't feel that they challenged anything because you could get killed, and I mean literally killed. So they just, what my mother always said, my father always said, do the best you can. Just give it your best effort, and you know, things turn out, they turn out. But in terms of challenging the system, that was a no-win situation, and it was dangerous, and you weren't going to be happy with the results. There was nothing for you to be challenging.
So there are no NAACP members in this family?
Oh, yeah.
There were?
In this, now, in the current generation.
Current generation.
Yes, but not.
I'm talking back then.
Now, my mother belonged to something in the 1970s called Citizens for Progress. And I really don't remember a lot about it. I know she went to meetings, and my mother didn't drive. Well, one of the little white hippie girls taught my mother, they taught my mother how to drive, but my father was always like, then like you had to grab the steering wheel. She never would relax, so she really didn't start driving until she died. So, but she would go to the Citizens for Progress meetings, and I remember
It was Evelyn Holland's group,
Yeah.
Citizens for Progress. That's me right here. Janice.
Janice, you got the
Yeah,
mic.
I have the mic, yeah. Yeah. I wanted to just attest to his sister Phyllis. She was my sister's roommate at Morgan State University. And my sister tells the story of how, you know, once the classes were over, she would come, Elfrida, her name is Elfrida, she'd come get in the bed, and Phyllis would sit at that table, and she would study, and she had everything, checklists, and everything finished. And my sister said because every day Phyllis came in and was studious and did her work, she began to say, oh, I better get up and do the same. So she said Phyllis took her put her on the honor roll. Because Phyllis was very bright and was on the honor roll. So Elfrida said, I'm going to follow in Phyllis's footsteps, and it did work. But I also wanted to tell you a story about Hollywood Elementary, about your being in the class, and about the teachers' expectations.
Yes. At Hollywood Elementary School, okay, first of all, even though my mother had a learning disability and she wasn't a real student kind of person, like I said, she was relentless. So she had taught me I could read and write. Now, my mother claimed that I could read and write from the age of 2, but I don't claim that. I can't remember not knowing how to read and write. So, my life, I always let her read and write. So, when we went from Banneker was the black school at the time, and the teachers were just wonderful. They were kind-hearted, they were supportive, and they loved my sister Phyllis to death. So when I went to Hollywood School in the integrated school, I told the teacher that I had already completed. See, when I was at Banneker, by the time I finished the 2nd grade, I had finished the 4th grade textbooks. So when I went to Hollywood School, they put me back in the 3rd grade textbook. I did that work a long time ago. So it made her mad. She said that I did that other work at a black school, and this is a white school, and I'll be lucky if I can keep up. Okay, so, you know, like an area challenge, I went to work. So, like I said, I was a straight A student. So it was a very hostile welcome, but it was the welcome that it was. But because my father used to say, don't let them see you cry. So just come to me, you can cry your eyes out. But by the time I got home to him, I never wanted to cry anyway. She was a good guy. So it was a wonderful environment. You know, it was unsupportive, and it was hostile. Just made the best of it. And that's what I did.
And you got straight in.
I remember one of the students, one of the teachers gave me a B in handwriting and art, and it made me cry because I was third grade. And my father said, "Yeah, I cry." It's a handwriting, but you can write and drawing. Who cares if you can draw or not? Because you can draw a dollar sign, can't you? Yeah, it was just a way to put a blemish on, because I had nothing but A's. I had just a sea of A's and then put that B on it. It made me very angry. But my mother, thank God, was a woman, and she got my father, because my father worked all day, come home and retired. My mother, look, she's going, Barney, you gotta go. They get in the car and drive her to school, and she lit them up more than once. What happened was, because they were just little, I don't know if it's subtle, but it was stuff that was intended to be insulting. Yeah. Because we had a school play, and they made me the servant, so, and I'm the only little black chicklet in there, so I come home, and I said, well, guess what? I got a part of the school play. Oh, that's nice. She goes, what are you doing? I said, I'm the servant. Mother said, Barney, let's go. Me and my father sat in the car. My mother went into their school. I didn't see the roof blow off. By the time she came back, I was King Wincelots.
Quick question. I have a quick question. When you're ready, when you're free.
Go, please.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Hey, Donald. I'm Dolores. I'm a Hill Vignani. I met Donald back a few years ago when I worked for the county government in Leonardtown. And I just want to know, Donald, when you started the journey to find your history, what was your first steps? Do you remember what you did to research?
Well, see, everything was tied closely into sodomy. So there was a wealth of information there. And they had these big binders that they kept that were falling apart. And I just remember looking through the binders.
Okay. Do you know where your first ancestors first stepped here in St. Mary's County? Do you know who that was?
No.
Who they were? That would be very interesting. I'm always interested in that, just growing up here. Yeah.
It's not really the Barbers, it was the Dyson family that we really traced. Because there was just more information available on them.
That could be your next book.
That's true. Got a point there. I have to get motivated enough to do another one.
If I don't see another hand, let me ask a question. Donald, this brings things up into, I think, in the 1990s. We were well established in the community. And you got involved in something called Salt and Pepper. What was that?
Salt and Pepper was a silly social group. So they would get together on Thursdays and just talk about issues of relevance related to race throughout the county. And they were just a bunch of like-minded people. It was a bunch of good guys. And
black and white.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And, so that's the Salt and Pepper. So, but they were just very forward-thinking people, and they were just results-oriented. They were trying to make things better. Not much can go wrong when you do that.
But they had started that organization,
Because I remember him and Mr. Portsy and Bishop Portsy, Ed Cox. But they were a good group of guys. It was just fun. I mean, it was enjoyable. They had rousing conversations, talk about things of relevance, and intelligent conversation. You know, just talking crap, having an intelligent conversation. But it was very interesting, and they were a good group of guys, and it evolved into UCAC actually.
If I remember correctly, you just said Elmer Brown was involved in salt and pepper.
Yes.
He's also the one who took the lead in creating the UCAC.
Yes, he did.
Does everybody here know what the UCAC is all about?
This whole table.
I want to thank them for helping the co-sponsor this evening, but maybe if the other people don't all know about UCAC, how it started. You say a few words?
Actually, it stands for Unified Committee for Afro-American Contributions. And the concept is that African Americans are just not just victims in history. You know, this happened to them and they were slaves, and, you know, it's a horrible thing. They were people that tried to live a meaningful, worthful life, and they were willing to. It's a great deal of risk involved in something like that. They were willing to take that risk. They incorporated. My favorite person was Ralph Butler. Mr. Butler was there. He was, my favorite memory of Mr. Butler was, see, when I went to Banneker, I went from the first grade to the 12th, and I had gotten washed around in the a group of students that were just milling around, and I was too little, and I missed the freaking bus. So I was scared to death. I had no idea, because the bus had such a circuitous route, I had no idea how to get home. So I had missed the bus, and they had a principal there, Mr. Smith, and he was a scary, tough guy. And I just remember Mr. Butler saying, "Why aren't you gone?" I missed the bus, and I started crying, and he was like, "Come here." So they had this thing they had made up that was like a store. It was a cardboard thing, and he told me to get inside that and stay there. And then he called my aunt Bertina, and she was going to come and get me. But I didn't have any kind of a frustration tolerance at that age, so I was wandering around and ran into Mr. Smith and threatened to spank me. That's what, I had no idea how to get home. I'm lost. I had already made plans how I was going to spend the night. Be there in the morning when the school opened. So I did not need a spanking. But I just remember Aunt Bertina pulling up and getting me, and I was so happy. Took me home. It was just a wonderful experience.
Okay, my name is Kathy, and I've been thinking about what to say and trying to gather my thoughts, and I still can't make any sense of them. But I went to Hollywood Elementary School for 6 years, and in the 3rd grade, schools were integrated. I didn't even know what it meant. I didn't know what segregation was. I don't even know that, I don't remember having heard the words, but I knew there were some new kids in our school. And they just became part of us. And I'm telling you this from the heart. There was no difference between us white children and the children that came from Banneker or elsewhere. And I met one of my dearest friends, most cherished and priceless friends of my lifetime, and he's our speaker tonight, Donald. Donald has been a best friend since the 3rd grade. And we just celebrated our 50th class reunion 4 weeks ago tonight. And just seeing all of our friends brings back so much. And as a child, when you don't know what's going on in the world. It doesn't matter what the color of your skin is. And I just have so many friends. And you mentioned you were Linda Curtis. Vincent. All those friends were our friends. And Donald was in my tight circle of friends. He was a whole lot smarter than I was. Let me tell you. So Donald, you've done a great job with this book, but there's so much I still don't know. And I haven't gotten through the book yet. But I was reading a story about one day when he was riding his bike, and that very persistent mother got after him. I never knew that story. We knew Donald lived at Sotterley, and that was cool. Hey, we lived at Sotterley, but Sotterley was, at that time to me, was just another place in Hollywood. I didn't know that much about Sotterley. Certainly didn't know the history. Certainly didn't know that there were descendants of slaves still living there, and certainly Donald was one of them. So read the book, you'll be enlightened and educated.
And a little bit on this story about there was a slave house there. We had to go past that slave house to get to the school bus every day. And my mother used to tell me that place is boarded, because you used to have a board that went across it. My mother, that place is boarded up, but you can very easily end back up there again, so behave your damn self. See, my mother's family were big bootleggers. So she's seen everything that can go wrong with a person. Because my mother would make, and her father, they had a still, they would make liquor. And people would just get blind drunk. Because that was during Prohibition. So people had no resistance to alcohol, and people that couldn't resist it had a horrible life. So that's why mother, because like I said, when I was a teenager, I got drunk one time. But like I said, she didn't hit me, but what she did was worse, because I woke up the next morning and I had the world's worst hangover. So I said, I can't go to school today. She said, oh, no, school, go lay down. So I was laying there and I heard this loud sound, and the loud sound was the trash truck. So she had called the trash truck, and I had to ride. The trash truck has a handle you hold on back. So I was riding the trash truck, and the lesson that she was trying to teach me was, there was a guy we called Sweet Pea, and she said that he was an electronic engineer before he started trading. Then he became just a drunk, and I mean, but the thing about Sweet Pea that horrified me that I had experienced was, he would get an old, like a bottle, I don't care what it was, it could be vinegar, and he would dump it out, and switch a little water in it, and then throughout the day, whatever alcohol he could find, he would pour into that bottle, like partially empty beer cans, liquor bottles, wine bottles, anything. And he had this concoction at the end of the day, and you think the strip paid. So my mother, see, when you try to tell me there's no big deal, that's a big deal, because he could have been anything he wanted to be. You see what he ended up? So don't tell me about drinking. That wasn't a topic that came up ever again. Because I wasn't feeling the love.
Donald, so you served on the Board of Trustees of Southerly for many years.
Yes.
What was that like for you?
Oh, it was an extreme learning experience for one thing. I learned more than I had ever known about Southerly, and I was always impressed by how positive the people of Southerly were. Various trustees, the volunteers, they were just wonderful people. It was a very good experience being around them. It was very positive.
That's how the two of you met, is that correct? You and David met on the board.
Yes. That's how I
There might be a second opinion about that. So, to kind of wrap up here, if you could, both of you, individually or together, leave us with a final thought, and that is, I wrote this one out. What lesson that the story of the Barber family in Southerly and beyond, what lesson can you leave us, all of us, as instructional or as we think about here in St. Mary's County? And let me just preface that, or as an aside, saying I think this is an extraordinary county. And the fabric of the county, as I said earlier, the tapestry of the county, the chorus of the county, I think is one that speaks exceptionally loud and exceptionally clearly. But if you could leave us with one final thought, what would that be, either together or each of you separately?
Well, I think it was the idea of the various people who were in the various, at the schools there. Let's see. I think people were very, they were very happy to be part of the people that were there. Nobody was. Let's see. Let me think. I'm trying to think. Really? I just think that being on the let's see. I really couldn't tell you. They're just happy that people are there, and they wanted people to be. No, I don't. Everybody's just glad to be there and happy to be part. True. Yes.
All them teachers helping you, and you have your parents that support you no matter what, even during segregation. So, yeah, it really does village to raise a servant, because if you don't have that support, you don't have nothing really.
It's just essential to have a good support system. It's essential because you have just a basis to work from. You're not just kind of blowing in the wind. You have a direction in life. It makes a big difference. Very important.
And David, what would your thoughts be about the lessons?
Mention two thoughts. One is we live in a society which is divided in so many ways. Black and white, rich and poor, Republican and Democrat. One of the things that struck me in learning about Donald Fenimore and his story is that it was a quintessentially American story that we were developing and learning about. We're all have more in common with each other than we want to perhaps admit sometimes. The second thing is to mention that a lot of people have talked to me about the book. And many have said, you know, I'm so glad this is being written because he never talked about this. Black families said they didn't talk about slavery, segregation. White families said we didn't talk about these things either. And so I think the book plays a useful role in putting down one family's experience through this period of time in the county. And I look forward to hopefully other people writing up their families. And some of the prominent people in the historical society, it would be great if some of their, like Ed Bicel or Charlie Fenwick, if their stories could be looked at in the same way, so that people who were in their class would see things through their eyes, the way Thomas More allowed people to see things through his eyes.
Well, one of the overriding stories that I see from the story in general is that the things that unite us are far more powerful than the things that divide us. You know, I mean, far more. And the things that unite us are just kind of natural. They just kind of occur. But the things that divide us, it takes work to be divided. Yes, it's negative work, but it's work.
I want to thank you both for being here this evening. This is special to all of us. Thank you, Donald. Thank you, David. Your books are out there, and you can either stay here or bring your pens and your books, and David and Donald will sign them for you. Thank you both very much for being part of it.